Season 2 brought us two new weapons, one of which is the FARA 83 assault rifle, and we want to know how it stacks up against the meta assault rifle inside Warzone at the moment. So that means in this video we're going to compare the FARA 83 assault rifle to the CR56 AMAX. If you enjoy weapon comparisons and weapon breakdowns like this, subscribe to the channel as we're trying to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers, and also click the link in the description and follow us over on Twitch. Before we jump straight into the stats this time, a few things do need to be said because Raven Software did change how the attachments work on the Cold War weapons once again. A couple of obvious attachments like the Task Force Barrel and the Agency Suppressor can no longer be used now because they're no longer as effective as they once was. Even though we do make early videos giving you general guidance on what your class setup should look like, this video is going to go in depth letting you know what each attachment actually does. With all that being said now, here are the class setups that we use to compare both of these guns. So we have the Meta AMAX build, which we all know by now, so I'm not going to waste any time on this. And then now we have what I believe to be the best class setup currently for the FARA assault rifle. Now, after some testing and a bit of reconfirmation from J-God himself, we do know that the Agency Suppressor actually hinders your bullet velocity, and then the ultralight barrel is the best barrel for the fastest possible bullet velocity. So that's why we're not using the Agency Suppressor in this case, because it doesn't really make sense, especially for an assault rifle. You want the maximum bullet velocity as you can, especially if you're going to stack it up against a gun like the CR56 AMAX. Jumping straight into the stats now, there's a lot to talk about here, but a few things I want to point out. White is the base weapon, blue is with the attachments added, and green is just some highlight areas. So let's quickly talk about headshot damage first. In terms of the FARA, it has a 49 close range headshot damage, then it drops off down to 37. We were only able to calculate 2 damage drop off points for the FARA. Then the headshot damage for the AMAX is 56 and then drops down to 51, so the AMAX has the higher damage profile there. In terms of body shot damage, the FARA deals 33 up close and then drops off down to 25. The AMAX deals 42 up close and drops off down to 38. So again, the AMAX does much more damage again. For the rate of fire, we managed to calculate a rate of fire of 825 rounds per minute for the FARA. And then for the AMAX, we all know the rate of fire is 630 rounds per minute. And what this means for our time to kill values is that the AMAX does still come out on top because it does still deal a lot of damage. It does have a slightly lower rate of fire, however, but the damage is what's making the TTK on the AMAX so low. But the FARA does actually have a fast time to kill. If you compared it against some of the other assault rifles, like the Grau for instance, it's going to kill much quicker than that gun. In terms of damage drop-off points for the FARA, we managed to get the damage drop-off at around 30 meters. That's what we managed to calculate anyway. It's not 100% accurate because we have moving bots to test with. The damage drop-off for the AMAX is around 24 meters, but like I said, the one with the FARA is not 100% accurate, so it could be very similar, but I'll still give the edge to the FARA because from our testing, it was around that 30 meter mark. In terms of aim down sight times for the base weapon, the AMAX comes out on top, but when you fully stack attachments on both of these guns, the FARA comes out on top by about 44 milliseconds. Magazine size, both of these weapons start at 30, and then the FARA can go all the way up to a 60 round mag, whereas the AMAX only has 45 rounds. Keep in mind the AMAX does fire a lot slower, so you don't really need 60 rounds for the AMAX. We all know that by now anyway. Then for the reload time for the base FARA is 2.58 seconds, and that's for the full reload from an empty magazine. The reload time with the salvo mags brings that down to around 2 seconds, which is great for the FARA. The AMAX has a base reload time of 2.25 seconds. Unless you add sleight of hand, it will make it quicker, but like I said, we didn't use sleight of hand in the build that we showed. The base reload time on the FARA is super slow for some reason. Even though it's only a couple of milliseconds slower than the AMAX, it just feels way too long. Those salvo mags definitely do the weapon justice. In terms of base bullet velocity, the FARA is actually faster than the AMAX. And then when you stack attachments, again the FARA is faster than the AMAX. So far everything's looking good for the FARA. The damage is decent, not as good as the AMAX, but definitely close. And then it does have a faster fire rate along with faster bullet velocity as well. So this means it could be a really good performer at long range. And notice how I say could be because there's one huge thing that lets the FARA down, and that's its recoil pattern. Now this can be said for a lot of the Cold War weapons, but up until now the Task Force barrel actually reduced a lot of that S-shaped curve you would get with guns like the Groza or the FAR1. The Task Force barrel was almost a no-brainer, but now that it works as intended, you can't really use it for this reason. So in terms of base recoil pattern, you'll see both on the screen here. The AMAX is in green and the FARA is in blue. And the recoil chart was taken at about a 12-meter distance, and you can see how hard the FARA kicks to the right and then back to the left again. That's a really hard recoil pattern to manage. The AMAX almost does go straight up and down, but it does have a lot of horizontal bounce, but I would still prefer the AMAX's recoil over the FARA for the base weapons. And even when you stack attachments, the same thing goes here as well. As you can see, the AMAX gets significantly better, and the FARA does get better too, but still it's got such a harsh kick to the right and then back to the left again. It's really hard to manage that, where the AMAX is almost straight up and down, which is so easy to manage, and it's the reason why a lot of people love using this gun. All you need to do with the AMAX is pull down on your analog stick and you've corrected for majority of the recoil. Not to mention that it does have the faster time to kill as well, and then also in my opinion, it has the better optics and better attachments. Something that everyone does subconsciously, but no one really talks about this in their videos, is the fact that you don't really want to choose a gun that's getting adjusted constantly, whether it's getting buffed or nerfed. We all know that the FARA is going to get some nerfs and buffs soon, especially with that agency suppressor, or maybe for like recoil and stuff like that. But if you've mastered a gun one time, then you don't really want to keep learning that gun over and over again. It gets quite annoying and tedious. And for that reason, the AMAX is actually a very reliable gun as well. It's pretty much cemented itself as one of the best guns inside Warzone. And to be fair, it's very balanced as well, so it's not likely to get any nerfs or buffs. It's not really going to change, so once you master it now, you'll be able to use this gun time and time again, and it's not going to feel any different. Now, the last thing we need to take a look into is hipfire accuracy. Now, I'm not going to recommend hipfiring all that often with either one of these two guns, even though I would say the FARA is more of a sniper rifle complement kind of weapon, whereas the AMAX is a standalone assault rifle that you could beam at long range. They're both very different guns here, but let's take a look at the hipfire chart. I won't waste too much of your time on this. You shouldn't really be hipfiring with either one of these guns anyway, but we have the AMAX in green, the FARA in blue, and as you can see, even though both of these aren't the best in terms of hipfire accuracy, the FARA still has a tighter gripping overall. So if you're trying to pick an assault rifle that you want to hipfire with, the FARA is the better option here. So just to summarize this all quickly now, like I said, I do think the FARA is more of a sniper complement weapon. And having said that though, the iron sights are not the best on the FARA, and that is what a lot of people look for when they use a sniper complement kind of weapon. You do want something that's got nice iron sights like the FFAR, the Grau, the M4. But take it from me, you definitely need an optic on the FARA as well as the AMAX. Now, in my opinion, if you had to pick one of these two weapons, I would absolutely hands down go for the AMAX. It's been a popular weapon for very good reason. It has a really fast time to kill, and not only that, if you can master that recoil, which is easy to do, you can land tons of shots with it as well. That's just my opinion. Let me know what you think about both of these guns down in the comments below, and if you're enjoying Season 2 at the moment. Also, if you're new to the channel, subscribe as we're trying to reach our goal of 10,000 subscribers. Drop a like on this video if you enjoyed it, and thank you very much for watching.